Everybody, my name's Dave Brons and this is the BronsCast episode number 7, and I'm going to be interviewing guitar pioneer and virtuoso Sam Bell. Before we get into that though, I have some exciting news. My album came out a year ago. It's called Based on a True Story. It's been described as Star Wars crossed with Van Halen by one critic. But anyway, the exciting news is I've finally released it fully on iTunes, Amazon and Google Play. So for you guys who perhaps don't buy physical CDs anymore or don't use Bandcamp, which is where the album's been up till now, you guys can just go and check it out on your phone as a mobile devices. So I'm really excited about that. Other news is that I've just played a string of gigs and I'm working on some live footage which I'm going to put on release mainly to subscribers to my mailing list. So if you're interested in finding out about that, sign up to my mailing list at davebrons.com. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to the interview with Sam Bell. Hey everybody, welcome to the BronsCast. And today I have with me the amazing, incredible Sam Bell. Sam Bell is, if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll see him waving right now. If you listen to it on the podcast, you'll just have to take my word for it. Sam Bell is an incredible musician, and I wanted to get him on the podcast because he specialises in a new form of music, really, which is involves playing 8-string guitars. So a lot of you guys probably know that a guitar normally has 6 strings on it. We extended to 7 strings in the 90s with Steve Vai and his Passion and Warfare stuff. And then the latest thing, sort of 8 and 9 strings, extended range guitar, which Sam is all about. So say hello, Sam.
Hi.
Hi. And so Sam as well has tuition stuff with Lick Library, Guitar Tuition. He's an endorsee with Laney, Ibanez and Eternal Guitars. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah.
And today we're going to just be talking about being a musician in a world full of guitarists. And I suppose that's kind of it's really great to have Sam's perspective on that, because he's really well known for being a technical type of player, a bit like me, and he has first-hand knowledge of the whole scene and things like that, so it'd be great to get his insight on that. But before we get to that and playing a few tracks, it'd be great to hear a bit about Sam and how you got started getting into music. So do you want to just tell us a bit about that?
Okay, well, I picked up a guitar when I was about 4 or 5 years old. My parents both had different musical tastes, but they weren't necessarily musicians. My mum played a few chords on guitar, but my mum was into kind of the sort of more art rock, Roxy music, and Sparks and Talking Heads, whilst my dad was really into like Neil Young, Bob Dylan, The Kinks, The Who, Rolling Stones, and then from that, Thin Lizzy and all of that stuff. So when I was about 4 or 5, I went to the Buddy Holly story in London. It was a musical. Yeah. And I saw Buddy Holly playing a Strat, and that kind of sold me on guitar. From there on, I tried to learn as many Buddy Holly songs as I could. I got the complete guitar player books as hand-me-downs from my parents, well, my mum, and Streets of London and all that stuff, some Cat Stevens songs. And from there, I discovered Mark Knopfler and Jimi Hendrix, and I used to, the Buddy Holly thing, I used to sit in the playground at school whilst all the girls would do their Spice Girl routines, and I would do my Buddy Holly routine. I made my own cardboard glasses out of cardboard and sit there and try and play his songs. And then I discovered Hendrix. I got into tab books. I even did a jam night when I was about 9, but I had no serious thing. It was just a kind of therapy hobby for me. And then I skateboarded throughout my entire teenage years, but that introduced me to lots of hip hop and more sort of bands like Joy Division and The Cure and stuff like that. So that happened. And then I went to college. After a bad accident on a skateboard, I shattered my right arm, and I kind of rehabilitated myself by playing Red Hot Chili Peppers songs on acoustic to prove to myself that I could still kind of play, because when I broke my arm, the doctors said that I had a lot of nerve damage. I lost a lot of feeling in my arm, and it set funny and all that jazz. So playing the guitar in the cast was kind of a way out and something to do, because it had always been around as a hobby. When I'm not skateboarding, I'd be playing acoustic guitar, but it was very much a few chords. I knew a few pentatonic licks, but I didn't know what a pentatonic scale was. I didn't know anything about anything like that. And then I went to college and I met some good friends, my friends Adam Bell and Lewis Ryan, if you're listening. They introduced me to players such as Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai and Ingve, and all of that stuff, all the shred, rock, and all
So
that.
shred being more technical sort of guitar playing, yeah?
Yeah, virtuoso style playing. That really got me into that. So that got me into, wow, that sounds amazing. I think I heard Ingve. I think Martin Golding interviewed him for Total Guitar back in 2004 or five, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a video of him sat there at a desk, and he's nailing these humongous squealy pinch harmonics. And I hadn't heard that since listening to like some Meatloaf records or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa! And he had the sunglasses and all the jewellery and all that stuff. And I just thought, that guy's insane. So I was kind of obsessed from there on. And I had a really good guitar teacher who travelled around the world, Bruce Knapp. And he just kind of said to me, here's a major scale. But the thing is, he taught me theory in a way that it wasn't an academic subject. He'd been to like India and stuff and learned all the ragas and played different world musicians. And he got me into all of that stuff as well. So that gave me a thirst for practicing and learning. And because of skateboarding, it really, skateboarding was a lot harder for me than playing guitar. So the guitar was the pro-choice.
So in terms of breaking your arm then, do you think, did you worry at the time you'd never play again? Do you think that made you increase your desire for getting into music, or?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, music was always a therapy. So when I was bored in a cast, not doing anything, I'd be, playing music or listening, trying to play guitar. So it kind of, the worry was, I mean, I think my parents were more worried than I was when I broke my arm. My parents have been very supportive in terms of they've always let me kind of try things I want to do, which is nice. They don't, as I say, they're not actually musicians themselves.
Yeah.
In terms of doing it as a career and all that sort of thing. But they were sort of saying, "Oh, you might not be able to play guitar," and I was like, "Well, I don't know. I wasn't that fussed. If I just thought, as long as I can skateboard again." And then skateboarding got boring, and music just kind of took over a bit more again, and like I say, going to college, that kind of made me go, wait a minute, I can, do more with this, I naturally just loved it.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I wanted to get you on a podcast is because the kind of music you play is pretty cutting edge in terms of using, I guess, a new instrument really, even though it's a guitar, and in many ways sort of pioneering a whole new way of playing. So, and one thing I've been saying on these podcasts is that you take old information and different influences and assemble it to make new information. That's what being an artist is. So do you want to tell us a bit, because we're going to play one of your new tracks, the track called Explorers, in a second. Do you want to tell us sort of what the influences are behind this track?
So this song you're about to hear is part of I'm in a band called Mask of Judas, and we have an album coming out later this year, our debut album, even though the band's been together for 10 years plus. I haven't been in it that long. I've been in it for about 6. But this song is kind of it's heavy. It's got screaming vocals, courtesy of our vocalist, and she also sings as well in this. And there's also contrast of parts. And there's a lot of what you might initially hear is a lot of shred, noodly, but very much use that as a kind of a texture in this approach to my writing. But let's have a listen and
let's have a listen. So we'll just start from the top of the track and listen to about a minute or so. Just going to cut in here because I know that Sam goes on to talk about Chopin and the influence of Chopin on his music, and I just thought it'd be interesting to play an excerpt of Chopin for you just to create a bit of context. So this isn't a song that Sam's mentioned, but this is the Ballade number 1 in G minor by Chopin, and what I want you to listen out for is how you have the block chords and then you have these really flowing contour arpeggios with the melody line on top. So I'm just going to play you maybe 30 or 40 seconds of that, and then I'm going to play you Sam's piece so you can hear the musical links between what Sam is talking about and the music he makes. Great. So could you hear the arpeggios just rising and falling there? Okay, now let's jump into what Sam has to say about his piece. Wow. So that's incredible. I mean, I can hear all sorts of influences in there, to be honest. So there's a whole Eastern kind of scale going on. I love that thing you're talking about, texture, where you're playing like loads of sort of figures that rise and fall, come almost like kind of a wave, really. So that's a really interesting way of playing. And sort of, I really love the way the sort of note density just kind of flows, like you say, just like a real texture. So how do you come up with those kind of parts then?
Oh, I often start, I mean, before I say this, it's my introduction to, I joined Master Judas about 6 years ago, and it was the first time I'd really been exposed to like metal, like as in there's bands like Killswitch Engage and Sixth and stuff, which I liked. But I never learned to play that stuff, so learning the early Master Judas songs that the drummer had written before was my first experience. And one thing I noticed about a lot of the other metal I listened to was it's very much the harmonic information that I love in bands I love listening to from other genres, ELO or George Michael or something like that. There's lots of harmony and chords and melody, and I think in metal it's hard to really put that information across, especially in this style of metal, without just chugging on one string.
Yeah.
So I often start a chord sequence on acoustic guitar or a melody idea, and then I flesh it out into arpeggios or a line. So, for example, the intro, you've got those sweeping arpeggios. That's had that chord sequence. I was moving on my 8-string, and they were just really slow 8-string arpeggios. They felt quite nice to do. That's another thing. If it feels good and sounds good, then you're on to a winner. And it fitted as a kind of piano thing. I like listening, when you listen to Chopin or someone like that, piano stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it, you don't hear Chopin going. Well, you do hear him sometimes going, but also a lot of contour. A lot of contouring, and just putting that's suggesting the chord. And then when you hear when Joe sings the melodies or screams the melodies, the context becomes even more obvious within that. And then, for example, there's another section that when it gets into the more heavier single note, that was inspired by George Michael. I think maybe ever listen to the song when the album comes out and have a guess what song it was from. That's a challenge. But the chord sequence was there, and it was a song I was playing in a function band at the time. Rather than just playing chords or playing single notes, I thought, well, there's more notes to the chords than just the single root notes. You can mess around and make a riff from that, which has harmonic context, it has groove, it plays in around the vocals. I like that. It just sounds like everything's doing this, everything's kind of interweaving. Then the next section, so just I'm being very detailed here because hopefully this is I find it interesting. But the next section is kind of based off my love of early video games. Those of you who play Nintendo 64 and have played games by Rareware, such as Banjo-Kazooie, lots of the music composed for that had that kind of almost carnival vibe to it. It got lots of weird chord changes. You know, it sounds a bit mysterious, maybe like a sort of a Addams Family style thing. It's also, I mean, that initial theme actually is based off a very famous, popular 90s UK TV game show.
Yeah.
Crystal
So,
Maze.
I mean, I love the fact that you just really unashamedly saying, hey, we've taken these various influences, really not the influences you'd expect, and combine them to make this kind of cutting edge music. I suppose just reaffirming really that all new art is based on what's gone before, and the challenge is to just reassemble that in a new way. So should we just play straight from that section we were listening to, or do you want me to skip on a bit further into the track?
It's up to you. There's a, I mean, the structure of the track. This is something else. If the listeners who follow metal or tech metal, you know, this is something I find quite interesting. And those who don't as well, it's interesting. But I love pop structure. I love Michael Jackson early records, like Quincy Jones and the way he arranged those songs, and the verse chorus is a winner, to be honest. If you can, with tech metal, it's easy to get lost with all the sections being crammed next to each other, especially when you're playing fast stuff as well. It can go over listeners' heads very quickly if you're not careful. And you might be trying to be clever, but it's not clever if no one knows what the hell you're doing. So I think having the repeating sections and themes, I mean, most of my songs are based off maybe one or two sections. Then I flesh it out with different dynamics, different modulations, and stuff like that. So going back to your question, Dave, I'd say skip towards maybe just the section, the clean section that goes into that solo. Maybe that's an interesting place to go.
So that's about 1 minute on, so let's just drop it in here. Wow, there's some pretty tight playing there across the rhythm section, and that whole guitar thing going on the outro. That was amazing. So I can hear, it sounds like there's a bit of a Racer X influence in there, possibly, and sort of more proggy elements like Dream Theater. Am I hearing that right, or?
Yeah, I mean, personally, for me, Dream Theater, I listen to them. I like Images and Words and stuff like that. I've never been a huge follower. But Racer X, to be correct, Paul Gilbert, big fanboy, to those that know. So I love listening to those sort of dual guitar riffs. A lot. What I like actually is where they just only have the bass playing the harmony, and the bass player has to do stuff to make the harmony come across. And we can do. It's just this whole thing. I like imagining the notes sort of. You can see the podcast. You can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like flowing over in and out. I'm doing stuff with my hands. Flowing in and out and over each other, and having those Racer X style influences. Yeah, that's another thing. And also, there's a lot of sort of world music influence in that track as well. Really into different. I mean, that's a mode of the harmonic minor. I think, to get technical, it's not necessarily. It's Lydian sharp 2 for those who are desperately interested. But it's just it's another mode. I just like it. It's kind of like a sinister, happy sort of sound. And I've been listening. I mean, Anish Shankar and all that stuff. Mahi Vishnu Orchestra. Love that kind of harmony and riff sort of basis.
And do you actively make time to listen to different kinds of music? Is that do you go looking for new music? Is that built in, or do you just kind of come across it naturally?
Mixture of both, really. I mean, if I discover something, I stumble across something and think, oh, that's cool, and then that naturally takes you on a YouTube hunt for other stuff. Or, I mean, I like travelling a bit as well. I mean, like for example, I went to Morocco and saw loads of different instruments being played I've never seen before, and just incredible lines, and you just get interested in something and it takes you on a tangent. And I think I just love music in general. I always listen out for new stuff, and I like to be able to see, because I don't like to see what it is on face value. I think most good metal, I think, that is interesting, or going something like listen to the guys in Periphery or Animals as Leaders.
Yeah.
Their influences aren't just metal.
Yeah.
They have and in fact, actually, Toes and Nabasi from Animals as Leaders introduced me. He posts stuff he enjoys. I think he posted a band called Hiatus Coyote a few years back from New Zealand, and there's an amazing like soul funk jazz thing with electronic synth. But you discover off each other, and it's good to be a sponge.
I think the other thing is, I think if what I like about what you're saying is just that importance when you're an artist is to really mix it up, your influences, and not, because if you want to sound different, you really do have to gather from different places, don't you? If you just listen to the one person or a handful of bands, you can end up sounding like a rehash of those things usually. So it's important to spread your influences a bit wider. Let's have a listen to the guitar solo, which I think is just coming up now, around about the 4-minute mark. Is that right?
Yeah, it's after this open string section. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Guitar solo by Sam Bell. That's fantastic. It's fantastic. Your vibrato is really amazing, and that expressive single note stuff mixed in with the really kind of big arpeggio sections, really exciting. I love it. So let's just talk a bit about the topic then, being a musician in a world full of guitarists. Talk to me a little bit about that and what your thoughts are around that.
Well, I think you would agree with me here, Dave, that social media has done a lot for us in terms of our careers and making it possible to connect to a whole lot of people. Yeah. And obviously you can share stuff. So there's so much stuff. Whenever something happens in the world, everyone's talking about it instantly. Sometimes before the news even talks about it. Most of the time, actually. So guitar playing is widely accessible, and it's easy to be in a group of just guitar people. We probably all have friends and contacts on Facebook of guitarists we've never even met before.
Yeah.
Or even know who they are. They're just there on Facebook, and you see them all the time. It's like seeing someone on the street. And there's a lot of videos going out now where people aren't really creating any music. There's a lot of playing to backing tracks. There's lots of people shredding like mad solos, just incredible technique. And I've done it. We've all done it. We've all uploaded videos of us shredding or playing over backing tracks because it's fun. And at the end of the day, it is fun. But I think musicians are becoming, or guitarists are becoming, scared of becoming musicians, in the sense that they're scared to create music. Yeah. I think there's a kind of a bit of insecurity, maybe, that maybe it might not be good enough, or maybe just the obsession of technique is so much, or gear. I mean, you can post a picture of a guitar, and it'll get thousands of shares. It'll get whatever likes and all that stuff. But if you work on a free guitar lesson or create an album or some music, people don't really seem to want to hear about it. And at the end of the day, a guitar is just a tool to create music, and technique is just a tool to be able to express yourself on the instrument. and that is down to what you listen to. You are what you listen to, and that will come out in your playing. But going back to the guitarist musician thing, I think, it just seems it's a bit sad that people are kind of scared to, or I don't know what it is, but there doesn't seem to be as much music coming out of these players. There's some incredible players, no doubt, and there's a lot of players who need to release albums because they're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I was thinking about is that you play the Master Judas stuff live, don't you? I mean, it must be incredibly challenging to play that stuff live. It's so technical and so, so intense, man. You must need quite a bit of stamina to play that level of technique all for a full set.
I love it. I mean, obviously, playing this live, I've been very inspired by, just having fun on stage. I mean, I played the other guitarist in this band I asked to join was a friend off MySpace who I met years ago. He lives miles away from me. His name's Reese Forward, and he plays the harmonies and he does his own solos on the album. But we've been this album we're about to release, that song, we've been playing that live for about 3 years. We played that at festivals like Bloodstock and stuff like that, UK Tech Fest. And we played it so much times live, and we practiced so much, just because we enjoy it, But playing it live, we just forget. We try and just let it go. The mistake happens, and it happens. But most of the time, we're just goofing around, trying to distract each other, in each other's frets, or whatever, doing dual solos. I mean, one funny thing actually earlier, when we're listening to this, we're doing this headbanging and stuff like that. We've done metal festivals, and everyone's like, I've never seen a band smile so much and goof about. We're just having a great time playing these ridiculous. Because also, I think, even though the music is serious and has a serious message, and we spend a lot of time on it, you can't take yourself seriously when it comes to, especially starting that intro section to that song you played a minute ago, The Sweeps.
Yeah.
We're putting cheesy grins and stuff. I can't explain it. It's not that we're trying to take the mick, but it should be fun. If you're playing this style of music, you're there. You've got to have fun.
Seems to be a lot of fear now around playing live. I guess one bad thing, because the YouTube is amazing and all the social media is amazing, but one of the downside is people expect a level of perfection now. I mean, singers get it, don't they? Like Adele, she drops slightly out of tune, she gets a load of flack for it. And then I think there's a similar vibe with guitar players where there's a certain level of fear now to playing live. I think even really experienced players are a bit like, what if I get found out, and in the safety of your room at home you can edit the footage or whatever, but when you're live you really, it's especially with anybody can go with a mobile phone now and video what you're doing. And so how do you sort of do you have any advice for dealing with that fear? Do you think it's a load of rubbish, or do you think it's a real thing? What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely a real fear. I mean, I've had it, we've all had it to a point, but very quickly, I mean, I've been playing live for a long time, way before Master Judas, doing gigs with blues bands and stuff. And in that whole environment, it's an improvisational environment. You just have to get on and play. Unfortunately, down to YouTube and stuff, you can get these perfect performances edited. And there's a slight, I mean, it's awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. And, because at the end of the day, if you're making music, then as long as what you're trying to express comes across, then great.
Yeah.
But there's also there's a fine line between that and honesty. And actually, the beautiful stuff is often the stuff which you might not necessarily feel too proud about. In fact, but if you make a mistake, it washes off. The internet trolls aren't there, and if they are, then it's their problem. It's not your problem. That's their judgment. It's nothing to do with your playing at all. You can learn. You can choose to learn as well. If something really is bad, and if someone said something, then you can take it on board. But don't let it be yourself. Completely.
Yeah. I think it takes real practice to play live. I think I went out on tour a few years ago playing my music, and I really struggled just because when your heart's racing and you're on stage, it's totally different to playing it back at home. And I've certainly found that the more you do it, the better you get at it. So I think, I'm sure you agree with this, that the best advice is just get out there and play, if you can. It's really, really rewarding to connect with people. And
I think that just to put a point on that, playing live really makes you realise what's important about playing music. people. As in, you might be at home and write a song which has a ridiculous 8-finger tapping lick, but then you play it live and realise it just turns to mush. Or, you need to, well, you either need to bring up your level with that technique, it makes you realise that, or maybe it doesn't need that thing. Maybe you've got to question, is it there for the song or is it there for you?
Yeah, I'm sure you have moments like this as well. I've one song where I get to the solo section, I'm just like, what was I thinking when I came up with this? Like, I'm trying to play it standing up in low visibility. It's so complicated, and some of those things, it's good to play them out live just to know what you need to dispense of. That's great. That's good advice. So the other thing is that maybe people don't know about you is the other side to your music. Obviously you've got this pioneering stuff with the 8-string stuff, but you have some music that harks back to the past a little bit as well. So you want to tell us about that?
Well, Massacre Judas has been wonderful because it put me in touch with a lick library. It's got me out there on YouTube doing DVDs and stuff. But so then a lot of people know me for metal and shredding, which is great. I'm not complaining because I've got a career doing it and I love it. And actually, I'd happily shred all day. But that's just one part of me, really. And I'm doing this project now called Jacket Rock, which is a bit of fun, really. It's me kind of taking the mick out of myself. Well, I'm not even associating myself with it that much, but then really it's an expression of just playing really... I'm coining the phrase soft shred.
Okay.
Because it's just chilled, it's just playing, it's really melodic, there's loads of space, but the music itself is based on synthesizers. I programmed everything myself, everything is played in myself, and it's harking back to maybe like you've been put on hold on the telephone in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And affects music to you, instrumental guitar stuff. It's like that, but it's also inspired by video game music as well, big time. And that kind of, there's a whole movement called Vaporwave now.
Yeah.
Which is just slowed down 80s music, played really slow. It sounds a bit weird, and it kind of reminds you of a childhood, but you can't quite place it. So I like my strap line for Jacket Rock is music for a nostalgia, which you can't remember.
Okay, should we play a bit? Here we go. This is the first track, Warehouse Number 8 off Jacket Rock EP. I'll just drop you in a bit further into the track. Here we go. Amazing. You couldn't get more different from Mask of Judas, really, if you tried. What a contrast. I love it as well. I mean, would you say that sort of fits into that sort of just creating for the sake of being creative? Or do you have like a specific plan for it?
Well, here's the difference between that and Mask of Judas. Mask of Judas, that album, to write 8 of the 10 tracks which will be on it, took me 5 years.
Yeah.
And I wrote my Jacket Rock EP in a weekend.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That can be down to several factors. I mean, Mask of Judas is a band with people who put their own parts to everything. The drums play, all the drums and bass are all part of it. But Jacket Rock is all just me doing it, and I'm not thinking too much about, is anyone going to like this, etc. I'm just kind of letting myself be, and in a weird way, that is more me. Just because it's whatever comes out. I'm not judging it too much, and I quite enjoy it because it's quite satisfying at the end of the day that the song has come out in a fun way. I know they're cheesy. They're meant to be. It's meant to be a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm hoping they're also compositions. It's solo material.
I feel like we kind of lose some of the kind of innocence of making music as we sort of get further into our careers. I think about my kids when they bring home pictures from school, they're sort of 5 and 8 years old, and they don't make stuff with any agenda except to be creative, and it's not disposable, if you like, but it's just the goal for them is just to make something, and they want me to see it and be proud of it. And I think that's what I like though about the whole jacket rock vibe. It's just like getting out that kind of side of yourself, and just being creative for the sake of being creative. I absolutely love it. I think it's a real inspiration for sure. So perhaps we should just move on to the final bit where I ask you a few questions, and then we'll close out the interview just where you can tell people where to get your music and stuff. So what's the first thing you do in the morning?
Well, first thing I do is I get up and I pick up my guitar, and that's no word of a lie. I literally play it. It might be terrible, it might be good. I have it there next to me. And it sounds like it's such a cliche thing to say as a guitarist, like, oh, I practice 12 hours a day. It's not like that. It's just I like playing. I like holding it. I had to put it down. It's over there now, but I feel comfortable with the guitar. And then I'm late for work because I've spent too much time playing guitar, and I turn up to my first lesson with my hair everywhere and teach bells. It's all good.
So what's one thing you should get rid of but you're still hanging on to?
I've got a few old guitars that I should get rid of, but they're just super nostalgic to me. I've got a lot of things I got rid of and I shouldn't have got rid of, such as my Sega Dreamcast, which I'm missing big time. And it turns out there's a game on there which I sold my Dreamcast and all my games to my friend for 60 quid.
Wow.
When I was about 17. Turns out Shenmue, one of the games I had, if you can get it perfect condition, it's worth 120 quid on eBay itself, just the game. And that's not even a Dreamcast. So I'm kind of gutted about that. And I really want to play Shenmue. So if anyone's got Shenmue and will lend me it, then pick me up.
Great stuff. So what's something you believed for a long time to be true until you find out you were wrong?
I honestly thought Kirk Hammett was called Kirk Hamlet.
Kirk Hammett being the guitar player from Metallica.
Yeah, all my friends in college we always used to do wah-wah impressions of him, like you do, because that's what people do when you're in college, it's a bit silly. But I used to call him Kirk Hamlet, and all my friends knew I was calling him that, and it wasn't until recently that my friend sort of said, you do realise it's Hamlet. And this is my friend Adam, who introduced me to Paul Gilbert 10 years ago. We're like guitar playing brothers. And he says, yeah, it's Hamlet. I was like, I've been calling him Hamlet. I've even called him Hamlet. I did a couple of Guitar Interactive magazine reviews of some stuff, and I might have mentioned Kirk Hamlet a few times. But no one's told me. It's sign of a true friend, that.
Yeah. So if you had a time machine, would you go to the future or the past?
That's different. It's kind of obvious. I'd probably go to the past, but I'd ideally like to go to an 80s version of the future. That's
with Marty McFly.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And what would you tell your younger self?
Well, I started playing guitar very young, and I look on YouTube now, and there's kids like Lisa X, a young Japanese girl rinsing some amazing guitar playing. I just wish that. Well, it's kind of a hard thing because I don't really believe in having regrets, because I think everything you do happens for a reason eventually. Bad or good, and you need bad and good in your life to make balance. But I wish that I'd been a bit, realised when I was practicing I learned Purple Haze when I was like 9, tried to learn the intro riff, and I learned that. But it came to learning the solo from the tab book, and I just quit. I thought, but it wasn't a negative quit. I just thought, forward now, I'm going to play the Nintendo for a bit, and I played some other songs, strummy songs and stuff. But I wish I'd persevered a little bit more and realised that practice does make a difference. And maybe by now I would feel a bit more confident in my own playing and ability, that I'd have a bit more playing experience. I mean, I played a lot when I was young, but
yeah,
that'd be the main thing, practice more when I was young.
So where can people get hold of your music, your tuition stuff, where the best place is to find Sam Bell?
Well, I have a YouTube, an Instagram, and website, all under the username Sam Bell Guitar. If you search that on Google, I'm sure it'll come up. Massacre Judas, you can find on Facebook. The album and all that stuff. We'll be uploading all the information about that as it develops. It's getting mastered at the moment.
Yeah.
By Jake Hanson, he's amazing. And Jacket Rock, SoundCloud, just Jacket Rock. Put it on there, check it out. And, I mean, Jacket Rock is a project, because I love so many different styles of music. I'll be doing different projects. I might have another type of project under a different name, doing a different style.
Yeah.
I just have different outlets, because even though Master Judas to me is just music, it does fall into a metal bracket.
Yeah.
And Jacket Rock definitely falls into a Jacket Rock bracket. It's got its own kind of little thing going on there. So whatever else I do, I'll probably have a different project for that as well. So just follow me on Instagram or something, and I'll be uploading stuff.
So final question: if you had one advice for people who are looking to be creative, what would that be? If you had one bit of advice.
Keep an open mind. Be a sponge for influences. Remember, you are what you listen to.
Yeah.
The more you listen to, the greater it is. You can be. You can pick and choose what you like. You don't have to listen to styles of music because everyone says. This is a big thing. I noticed a lot of it when I was in college. Jazzers. That's a bad word. Jazz people learning jazz, getting miserable because their tutors have told them to listen to an album of a certain player, which is good because the tutor did nothing wrong, but their interpretation of they should listen to the album turned into, well, I should like this.
Right.
Forced themselves into something they didn't like it so much, but they became a bit bitter.
Yeah.
About anything else because it wasn't quite fitting in with what they expected. So I'm not saying anything bad about jazz there. I love jazz to bits, but there's lots of it I like. There's lots of it I don't like with everything. But that's what I'd say. Keep an open mind, but mainly be yourself. Be 100% yourself, unassuming. Just all of your flaws and all of your strengths. Embrace them all because that's what makes you you, and that's what will make you stand out. That's what makes you different from Steve Vai. That's what makes you different from Guthrie, whoever you're listening to. Human League, whatever, you are yourself, and no one else can take that away from you, and no one else can do it as good as you. You just have to take that and own it and love it and let it grow.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that, Sam. So, if you guys are fans of technical guitar playing, Sam's got some really great tuition DVDs around sort of various guitar techniques. Definitely check those out. He's a great teacher, great player, great musician, as you've found from the interview, great guy as well. So if you enjoyed this BronsCast, please subscribe to it on iTunes and maybe share it with your creative friends, as this isn't just about guitar, it's for all kinds of aspects of creativity. So thanks for tuning in, Sam, and thanks for giving us your time. Really appreciate it. Take care, mate, and see you soon.
Thank you. Been an honour. Cheers.
Okay.